How did you get the name Future?
Okay, got the name Future from my first b-boy teacher. His name is Manny Frost. He's a Puerto Rican guy living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I was about 15 or 16 years old when I used to come into D.C. because I grew up in Northern Virginia. And I started coming into D.C. on the weekends because they had a breaking class and like an open session. And I had come for a battle, like in 2000, I think was the year I came out here to the DC area for my first battle, and that's where I met Manny. And then he told me about his class, and I started going to his class every Friday. But he gave me the name Future for two reasons, he said. He said the first one, of course, was because I was like 15. I looked really young when I was 15. I looked like a little kid. So he was like, yeah, you know, you were talented, you were young, so he said you were going to be the future. But he said the main reason was actually because every week the class would be on Friday, and he said during the time I was gone from Saturday through Thursday until the next Friday, he said every time you went back and then you came the next Friday, you always had all these new crazy moves. So it looked like you were going to the future and coming back, and like we didn't know because they never saw me except Fridays. I lived so far away. So he's like, yeah, it was like you were like, you know, going to the future and getting all kinds of crazy stuff and bringing it back every class Friday.
Whoa. So when did you start dancing?
Well, I started dancing when I was like 4 or 5 years old because my mom's a ballerina and she had us dancing at church. And we weren't just doing ballet. We were doing like, she taught us like Broadway jazz more than ballet, and we did gymnastics. So when I was like 4 and 5 years old, I was dancing in church. Those were like my first experiences on stage, was like performing at church from the show she choreographed. And I stopped actually when I was like 7 or something like that, because I told my mom that dancing was for girls. And she hates that so much. She's like, hey, I hate that stigma with boys. Oh, I hate when they say that dancing's for girls. So anyway, I told her that dancing was for girls, and then I started playing more and more sports because my dad's like a superstar athlete. So I was really good at sports, me and both my brother and me. So I did sports all the way through high school, really. But when I was 15, my mom started showing me Michael Jackson music videos, and she kind of tricked me back into it because I thought that it looked so crazy and illusional. And then I also, once I found that, then I started looking up other movies, and I saw Breaking 2, I saw Beach Street, and so I got an interest in breaking from that. I got more of an interest from popping from Michael Jackson. That was the first thing I saw. And then there were corny music videos at the time that I liked too, like Genuine and Usher, and they did really bad side slides, and I wanted to do bad side slides too.
When did you get into popping?
That was when I got into popping from Michael Jackson. But at the time I was breaking and popping a lot because I was hanging out with Manny, and then I was coming into the city, and I met my first, well, it was really my second popping partner. The first one was in high school. So he liked to pop a lot. I liked to pop a lot. His name is Dean. And then I met a guy named Versatile from out here, who's the guy who introduced me and Rashad actually in 2005. But me and him were like partners, so we were like watching a lot of Mr. Wiggles. We eventually figured out who the Electric Boogaloos were. We were watching Poppin' Pete and Skeeter Rabbit, and we were going to battles, and we were seeing a lot of like East Coast poppers, like Shallow. Like Shallow was one of my big early inspirations, and we really liked Domino too. Shallow and Domino. So we were just finding footage in the very, very beginning, finding as much VHS tapes as we could of different breaking events where there was popping in it. And a lot of those were like Pro-Am, and there was Shallow, there was Domino, there was Clown from New York. He was in a lot of those footages too. So that's really what we really liked in the beginning. We liked like people that did a lot of waves and tuts and glides, and we liked all of the illusional stuff. And it wasn't until like 2002, I think, that we started watching like Poppin' Pete and learning more of that approach from the Electric Boogaloo approach. And then in 2003, I went to Philadelphia and I took a camp from the Electric Boogaloos. It was called the Illinois Legends Festival. And that was another early thing that inspired me. But then, yeah, I mean, it just just kept going from there. I moved to California, met Rashad, all that stuff. Just kept going.
Who are your influencers?
So there's been so many over the years, but I guess I'll just talk about my main mentor, which is Rashad. So I'd been taking classes and just watching videos mostly and practicing with friends until the summer of 2006. So I met him in 2005 through this guy Versatile, but I was also leaving for college. So we had one practice session together with Versatile, and we didn't really like click or anything. It was just like a regular practice. I didn't talk that much, nothing. And then I left for school, but he would keep in touch with me a little bit here and there. And then there was this battle called Unity and Respect in Boston in 2006, and it was like a big East Coast versus West Coast thing, because actually at the time it was the event that put up the most money compared to any other popping event. And so everyone was going, even West Coast people were going out there. So everybody on the East Coast was like, oh, Rashad's gotten so good, Rashad's gonna win. And everybody was, what are you talking about? Junior Boogaloo's gonna win. It was this funny thing. But anyway, after that event, I was home for the summer because I would go to school out there, and then summer break, I'd be back in Virginia. So Rashad was living here, and we started practicing in the summer of 2006. And that's when I kind of learned the difference between a teacher and a mentor, because he was also teaching me a lot more than movement. He was teaching me about culture and history and cipher etiquette, and we would go to the clubs, and I started to understand the importance of jamming and just getting down and pushing my limits in that way. He taught me a lot of applications and the levels game and all these different ways to think about creativity with dance and how to build my own styles. That was another thing he showed me that was really big. So he's actually I always liked all these different styles, but the mentality that he learned from house and that he has and that we carry in urban artistry and Assassins is really the biggest influence on the way I approach any style, So it's the reason why I look so different is because of the mentality behind what I'm doing. That's really what makes it different. So I've had a ton of people I've been inspired by, but the people that have made me think differently and come out of my comfort zones in life and in dance, those are the biggest influences, which has mainly been Rashad and house. And also, I have a lot of other people that I work closely with, like Rico and Damon and Steen and Thomas and Locksmith.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite environment to dance in?
Good question. I dance best in the club or in a cipher atmosphere. I always dance best in that setting. And the reason is just simply, I think it's something that we were club kids. Rashad started introducing me into more clubs, and we became club kids and cipher heads, And that the art of that has kind of died over the years with the contest world now, and everybody practicing for contests and trying to just win contests and then teach and judge. There's this whole club culture art form that's kind of lost, and I was lucky enough to be brought into that by my crew and Rashad, and I think it's just a place where there's no pressure. There's no, of course there's always pressure and nerves and things like that, but it was a certain type of encouragement, like the ciphers we were building, where it was the purpose was to push yourself. The purpose was to take risk, and we were getting praise when we would do those things. So some people focus on being so clean and perfect, but we were focusing on being just doing crazy shit. Oh shit, you did it like that. And I even now when I go to events and I hit ciphers, I always feel way more free and open, and I could just do whatever I want than I do in a contest or even a performance. In a performance it feels like a certain extra. Those are different things. You tackle those tasks as well, and you learn how to get more comfortable with those. But for me, still today, I always feel most comfortable in club, in cipher, or just when my crew's around, and I feel like I can open up and express really who I really am.
I see. Do you think the popping scene is different from how it was when you were first starting, and how is it different?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of differences. The first thing was that there was no popping battles when I first started. And there was not many classes for it. breaking had already broken those boundaries. There was breaking events and there was breaking battles, and there were breaking classes starting to emerge in studios in the area, in the DC area. But popping was something that like people would just like do on the side at those events, or each b-boy crew would have one popper. So back then, in order to be a popper in battle, you had to join a b-boy battle, and then you would really only get to use your popping if they had a popper and you knew that, and they brought him out, or you brought your popper out. So like that's what it was. Like b-boy battles were like that back then. There was poppers in the battles. So that's the first difference, is that the art of popping and like it being its own thing has been totally expanded on. There's workshops for it now, battles for it, anything you can think of, you know, master classes, like week-long camps for popping. Like,
so do you think the skill level for popping today has increased a lot, or?
yeah, it has, but it also lost a lot of certain things. Like back then, when we first started, like I said, like the first people that I got inspired by were doing like waves, tuts, glides, like a lot of different shit. And we didn't have as many rules on what it was, so there was a lot of freedom in it. Like there was more freedom in it back then. You were praised for doing something that you had never seen anyone else do. Really, that was the goal. The goal was to do something in a way that no one's ever seen that type of glide or that type of tut. And now today it's more like people only appreciate it when they understand it. Like they've been taught there's a certain type of musicality to cheer for. They've been taught there's a certain like technique for popping that you have to use that or it's not popping. There's more rules, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it allows the dance to expand within those rules, but it's a bad thing because if people live just within those rules, then it limits what the possibilities of what the dance can be are. So I feel like today, like, especially from 2003 to 2008 or 9, it was really like more focused on like there's a certain way you do it and there's certain styles that you're allowed to do, and other styles didn't get as much praise. But I think since like 2010 to now, there's been a slow curve towards versatility and diversity again, and people are starting to give praise for people trying new things and different things, and people like laying on their back doing ground moves and like, you know, like all different types of things. But it like the way that the flexing community and the turfing community are, like how the freedom they have, that's how it was that's how popping was when I started. And it's not like that anymore. It's not exactly like that, because you still get a lot of people saying, oh, that's dope, but it's not popping. Okay, I don't care. I like to do it, you know? Like, so we have to fight different battles today. It's really strange. And nobody ever said you have to hit all the time in order to be a popper back then. Now people say that you have to hit your muscles, which is cool, but it's not the only part of the dance. I don't subscribe to that way of thinking. I think there's a lot of different elements and they're all important. But I think like that because that's how it was when I started.
I see. So what are all the elements that constitute popping?
So there's so many, because there's so many groups that did it in different ways. So for me, like all the groups from Oakland, San Francisco, Richmond, Berkeley, San Jose, Fresno, Long Beach, Watts, Compton, New York, like France, like all these groups that were doing boogaloo and popping movement, they all had a different approach. So the answer to that question depends on which group you're talking to. So you could ask the Black Resurgence, what are some things that make boogaloo, and they say, oh, group stepping. Oh, we got inspired by Motown. Oh, you had to move like James Brown. Oh, we also got inspired by Chuck Berry. So to them, you know, and poses, they would pose. They would worm and pose, right? So to them, that's what it is. Okay, but now if you go to Lonnie and you go to Pop Tart and he's from San Francisco and you ask him what it is, and he had his 7 groups that he was inspired by. Okay, what's strutting to you, right? Or what's, you know, and that's another thing. The terms are different. You'd have to use their language. Like, oh, what's boogaloo to you? You'd have to ask Lonnie what's strutting to him. You'd have to ask San Jose, what's popping, what's popping to you guys? Um, and you'd have to ask the guys in LA, what's pop locking to you? So that's another thing, is like even the names they use were different, but each group had a different thing that they used that were traditions for them. So to them, their traditions is what popping was, or boogaloo was, or strutting was to them. So you can do it historically like that, or you can ask yourself, what things do I use in my popping? What things do I like to use with mine? Who are my teachers? What are the things that have inspired me, and what is popping to me? Which for me could be so many things, because I've studied under so many different groups. I love the Oakland approach, the worms, the rolls, the creeps, the claymation and dinorama characters. I love like the strutting, like the Fillmore, like swooping, all the stuff in San Francisco. Like I like the way that San Jose took the dance and expanded on the tuts, the flying tuts, and evolving the waves and threads and all that. I also learned a lot about bopping from Sensei Bop, from the LA Boppers, and I like the way that they hit. I like their approach of versatility. But I'm from the East Coast, so I'm inspired by Boogie Boys. Like a lot of the guys I was inspired by were Boogie Boys, and there's a lot of other dance styles going on out here, so we were inspired by all of that. So to me, popping is whatever I need it to be at the time that I'm doing it. It's just, you just take it there.
Cool.
That's all it is.
You're very musical. Do you do any musicality drills, or how do you?
I just listen to music a lot. I like a lot of genres of music, and I try to think about the moods of the songs more than before I get into the instrumentation and the different sounds. I'm more of a type of person that matches the mood and the energy of the music first, and then I might dive into the sounds too. But I'm like a character-driven dancer, so for me, like the character of the song, the mood of the song is like what's gonna be the driving force of my solo. But yeah, I'm really into rhythm, I like creating rhythms too. I get that from Rashad and Damon. But
You're really athletic too when you dance. What was your training like growing up, and how do you train now?
yeah, I mean, I was an athlete. I played sports my whole life, so I've always been really physical. And also, I was a b-boy when I started, b-boy and a popper. So my energy levels when I pop are very similar to a b-boy energy level, because I still carry that first mentality of like how you had to compete in a b-boy contest. You had to like have energy, power, and you had to show something that they had never seen before. So like I believe that that's probably a part of the reason why I push so much energy when I go, and it's so like a lot of information to take in, but it's like it's very powerful the way I move. Yeah, I've trained for it. I mean, we have like a lot of different exercises that we do that Damon's inspired us by, and that we've used ourselves for a lot of like low-level movements and ground moves, lunges, squats, push-ups, sit-ups, box, like horse stance type box things. All the stuff we do in locking is super physical. Kicks, jumps, splits. I mean, everything is really physical in that style. So we do that style all the time, and we teach it, and that is a workout in itself. Also, like doing the dance is a workout. Like I dance almost every day, and I sweat like every time I dance. Like I break a sweat usually. That's not true every day. I don't do that, but most of the time, if I'm getting down, I'm gonna break a sweat, and that's just like constant conditioning all the time. But now I'm trying to work on my stretching. I'm trying to get my stretches in order and eat a little healthier. Yeah, but like Damon is a very physical popper. Ground moves, stretch dancing, all of that stuff. And we learned all of that through Steen, and Damon, after we met, we worked with Damon with it too. And so me and Rashad, we used to do that stuff every day. Like we had a period of like 6 months where we did it every single day. We do the Damon exercises. So
did you do them with Steen, or just with Rashad?
Just with Rashad. Steen showed it to us, and then he told us that him and Thomas used to do it every day. Steen's partner. So we decided that we were going to do it every day.
Wow. Can you talk about your juking background? Like, what's juking, where it came from, how'd you get involved in it, and how does it go into how you dance?
Okay, so Memphis juking was originally called gangsta walking or the buck jump dance. Originated around 85, 86 in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's basically the native dance to that area, the native hip-hop music dance. So DJs at the time, like DJ Spanish Fly, were looking for certain types of sounds that had heavy bass lines and hard-hitting drums, and they were playing that in these different clubs. One of them was called Club No Name, which is the club where they say the dance originated, where all the gangsta walkers would do the dance when he would come on and spin. So he wasn't always playing Memphis music in the beginning. There was some classics from New York, some classics from Compton, from LA area, but then all of the producers out there started making that specific sound with the heavy bass lines and the hard-hitting drums.
And so what kind of music is this called?
It's called Memphis rap, Memphis hip-hop. So
Okay.
think about, so early people, you got G-Style, you got SMK, you got, from Memphis, you got Gangsta Pat, you got, skip a little bit ahead, 3-6 Mafia, Project Pat, Juicy J, DJ Paul, Play a Fly in the 90s was big, Coops to Kanika, Crucifix Clan. There's like tons and tons of Memphis rap. Gucci Man's from Memphis. Now there's some new people like Xavier Wolf, and there's a lot of people. So they made their own sound of hip hop music there, which created their own dance of hip hop, dance to hip hop music, which they called the Gangsta Walk or Memphis Jukin'. So it evolved through the 90s as the music changed and into the 2000s, and it kept changing over the years. The way I got into it was 2008, 2009. I was like, Rashad was showing me videos of it because he liked it, you know, and I was talking to House about it, and House was like, yeah, we should go there. And I didn't even think about that, like, oh, you can go somewhere where they do this, you know, that was like not even in my thinking, but I was like, oh shit, okay. So he was like, yeah, I'll go with you. So we went in 2010, but before that I was talking to, writing some of them, and Rico was the one that was the most receptive, and he's the guy in the city that's been trying to reach out and spread the dance outward and be open to other communities. So he's that guy in that community. So it was perfect when we linked because he wanted to learn popping since he was a kid, and I wanted to learn juking. And we basically started trading first just through phone, Skype a little bit. And then I remember we met when we went in 2010, and I remember it was weird because I only seen him on Skype. So when I saw him in person, it was like, he was like taller than I thought he would be. I was like, something about it was weird to see him in person. Oh shit, there he is, okay. And basically since 2010, me and him have been working together consistently. He's in Assassin's crew now, and we have a mentor-mentor relationship because we know when to turn on the mentee and turn on the mentor. So we have a really healthy relationship when it comes to exchanging art. And he taught me Memphis culture. You know, I go there as much as I can. I've been there quite often, like 6-7 times now. He comes here quite often. We travel and do work together. But we're just always talking, always training, and always like just trying to push on the style in new ways. He's also innovative in his craft. He's like the innovator in that style, and I'm an innovator in popping. So like we are also trying to I'm trying to innovate with him in juking too and take it to new places. So that's how we linked, and that's how we worked together. And there was a third part of the question, wasn't there?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, maybe
But
oh, how do I use it with my dancing?
Yeah.
Oh, with my popping. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now so that style already is heavily inspired by popping. So the Gangsta Walkers, they were inspired by like popping movement, and they were inspired by black fraternity stepping. So especially in the old school days, there was a lot of steps, but it's a footwork dance, you know. It's really like a ton of footwork, and the popping side of it, or some of the more mechanics and isolations in the feet, it's just popping footwork. I mean, it looks mechanical, it looks robotic, it fits so well into popping that all I did was I learned juking for what it was, right? I didn't try to just always mix it because then it looks like you don't really know how to do it that well. I learned the dance for what it was, so now I can, when I'm dancing to funk, I know how to turn on the Memphis juking mindset to funk music. So really what I'm doing is like, when I'm doing like my popping solos, I'll just turn on for as long as I want the juking mentality or the juking footwork, or I'll combine the two and I'll make it more like a robot doing the juking type footwork, but it fits so well. So like it's really become the foundation in my feet, like the base layer, and it goes into all my styles. When I do hip hop, I even mix it with locking and everything. I put juking into everything.
So jukin is inspired by trap rap, and then do you hear any of the trap rap that's like commercial and popular now? Is it
Good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of rap even on the radio that's good, because Southern hip hop is like the most popular genre of hip hop right now. It's the most played. So I mean, Future, Drake, you can juke to that. Wiz Khalifa, you can juke to that. Gucci Man, Juicy J. So much of what you hear. Migos, Waka Flocka. I can't even remember some of the mumble rap guys' names, but like that style, like you can juke to all of that stuff. It all connects because it's just the Southern hip hop sound. It's really like a specific sound that works. It's a timing in the music, and it's really bounce music. It's any music that makes you bounce like this. If it makes you start bouncing like this, you can juke to it. That's pretty much all it is.
Cool. And in your mind, what constitutes a good dancer?
I guess that could be so many things, but I think the best dancers that I really like are the people that don't really care what anyone thinks of them. Like they're just expressing themselves so honestly. I like people that express themselves honestly. You know, there's something so nice about that. It's like sometimes it's like fuck the technique, fuck what style it is, and it's just like if you're expressing the music and who you are, and those two things are in alignment, it's just powerful. There's something so powerful about that outside of genres and what style this is and all of that. It's like it's just music and it's just expression. So people that tune into like sound and music and can really just express who they are, like sort of fearlessly and just be them, I mean, those are my favorite people, you know. And all my favorite people are super original. Damon, Rashad, Steen, Maury, I mean, Thomas. And they don't Pop-Tart, they don't look at all like anyone else, but it's because of that thing. It's because they said, fuck it, at some point, I'm just gonna be who I am, and I'm gonna express this music the way I honestly feel it. And those are all the best dancers to me. Also, people that can do multiple disciplines of dance. I also really appreciate that, because that is an important thing to make any of your styles better. Like if you're a popper and you learn hip hop, your popping just got better. You're a popper and you learn locking, your popping just got better, because your body is learning new tools and new ways to operate, and you can adapt to more music. So if you're at the club and a song, there usually won't be a song you can't adapt to, you know. Some people have to sit certain songs out, you know, but the best dancers know how to adapt to any song. You know, sometimes that comes through learning multiple styles, so that's important too. But really, like, it's just, yeah, usually the coolest people are the coolest dancers. Sometimes it's just about being like a down-to-earth, cool, like humble, good person, and you'll be dope if you just express that honestly. You'll always be dope.
What do you look for when you're judging popping battles?
I'm looking for really like expression to the music. Like that's the first thing, is like the connection to the music. Like who's the better dancer? Like who can actually express what they're hearing. But also I'm evaluating like storylines, like how people like build and connect all of the things they're doing, how it flows, and also like abilities. Like when it gets into like a contest where two people are really like great movers and matching the music, then it starts to come down to like, well, okay, who was more dynamic, you know, who had levels, or who had more character, you know, or like who was more versatile, you know, who had multiple, who really danced with their styles, you know, because sometimes people are really good at dancing one style, but they can't get free and open with multiple styles. You'll see they'll try to tut and you can tell it's a move, but they don't like actually use that as a theme. So I think I really like when people can dance and express and create characters around all of the abilities and techniques that they have in their mind. So I'm really looking for all of those things, you know, like all of those things play a part. So it's the music, it's the movement, it's the mentality, it's the versatility, yeah, and all those little details about covering the floor, being dynamic, ups, downs, lefts, rights, you know, like all of those things that make dance look more full and complete can help in seeing who really the better dancer is.
What have you learned from Genius?
Junior?
Genius.
He is a genius, though. He really is like a genius.
Genius.
Yeah, Genius.
Genius all the time.
Yeah, you can call him House, too. That's his nickname.
Oh, okay.
House. So House has inspired me in a lot of different ways. He really is the type of guy that you just have conversations with and you're just becoming enlightened. He's really aware of a lot of things. He's super smart. I mean, with him, it's things outside of dance a lot. For instance, I told you already, he's the one that basically kind of taught me how to learn other cultural dances, because he was like, yeah, let's go there. Yeah, link up with, like, start talking, let's see how we can link with them, let's work together with them, you know, like, he was basically teaching me to respect culture, you know, and not just learn it from YouTube and just be like, oh, I learned this from YouTube, you know. He was more about like, yeah, like, let's learn the culture, let's take that in, let's go there and be a part of let's show that we respect what they do and honor that, and then we'll bring them here to show that they deserve to be appreciated and recognized. So, I mean, he's really the mindset behind Urban Archery and the Assassins when it comes to, like, being cultural ambassadors, like being a representative for different cultures, for, like, knowing history, for cipher culture, for, like, the direction we go with, like, our events and our company. But he's really good with helping me before battles, too. He really is a good coach for battles. He really understands that dynamic of back and forth and ways to approach that and create something where it's like you always have a plan. There's never a moment where you don't know what to do. He's really good with that. He's helped me a lot with battles. He helps me a lot with building styles too. He's got a good eye for that. You know, I'll show him a move and he'll be like, oh, you can do it, like, try it, you can do like this, boom, boom, back. And he also pushes me and Rashad a lot to break the rules of popping. He was the one that encouraged Rashad to start mixing his hip-hop back into his popping. He encouraged me and Rashad to do more of those, like, crazy floor moves. Like, he was the one pushing us to do, like, he's always been telling us to basically innovate and break the rules. He's definitely, like, that type of a guy. He also inspired me to be more, like, racially aware and be aware of, like, some of the injustices to, like, African Americans in the country and to speak up more about it. He's definitely like a speak up about it type of guy, and he's inspired me to do that in a lot of ways. So, like, I've been getting better as being a white American to speak to other, like, white Americans and people outside of African American culture about African American culture and about African American struggles and some of the things that they go through. So he's taught me to understand that in a new way and to be more aware of that. Yeah.
So for our last question, where do you want to see popping go? How do you want to see it go up from now? Do you like the direction it's going?
I like the direction it's going right now. It's good momentum right now. Things are changing. There's diversity's coming back. Open-mindedness is coming back. The rules are stretching. It's going in a good direction right now. It's getting really dope in a lot of different places around the world. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I definitely want people to, it just needs to constantly evolve. We need to celebrate the traditions, of course, but it can't. House says this. House says we have to love these dances enough to watch them change. You know, you have to love it enough and enjoy it enough to be a part of it once it's changing, and still find ways to appreciate that, because some people just get stuck in, oh, that's the way it was when I did it, and blah 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 blah. And I have the ways that I liked it too. In early 2000s, there was things that was dope about that time, but it's always changing, and that's what's beautiful about it. So I hope that it just keeps evolving and keeps innovating. And we need to just keep celebrating the traditions and celebrating the innovation in it, and keep pushing it forward, you know, and encourage different types of music to be done to the dance, because that's another huge thing that always historically has pushed it forward. I'd also like to see more people get into research and like doing these types of things of documenting dance, and like being more intellectual about the dances, you know, being able to speak about them intellectually, and being able to like be open to the many approaches, and like understand that everyone just had their tradition, you know, and everyone has a different story, and that's okay. And I hope we can move to a place where people are that open, where they're like, yeah, this people did it like this, and that's part of the tradition, that's a part of the legacy, and we can do that, and we can accept that, and we can honor them. So the only way people are going to learn about that stuff is if they do research. For me, it's through my interviews. That is a big thing. But we need more people doing interviews in all styles, not just popping. We need that in hip-hop. We need it in house. We need it in whacking. We need it in locking. Because right now, people only know about the people that they've seen and that are accessible to them. So that's not enough. There's too many people to just treat it like that. So people have to research. Yeah, it's important too. So I hope it moves more in that direction too.
Awesome. Dope. Well, I think that's all we have. So thanks for being with me. It's lit.
And that was lit.
Whoa, that was 40 minutes.